Everybody loves a good villain, but not all of us know how to make them. So today, we ask the question, how do I make a villain that my players will truly hate and or fear? Leave your idea in the comments below. Us D&D players can never really get enough. Whether you play 3 times a week or once a month, part of you always craves more. We get our fix however we can, by watching short stories online, D&D live streams, Baldur's Gate. Well, allow me to offer you something new. The best available follows a party of new adventurers trying to make a name for themselves in hopes of being sponsored in a competition. Waterdeep's Festival of Heroes, which sees the chosen parties delving into the depths of Undermountain, risking life and limb to suppress the evils and monsters below to protect the city above. The Dungeon of the Mad Mage is filled with danger, treasure, glory, and mysteries yet to be revealed. Come watch the journey from humble beginnings into heroic legend as we adapt a campaign years in the making into an illustrated web series with art from Doodle Poodle, author of Tales from the Tables. We pride ourselves in converting hours-long sessions into smoothly paced episode with limited animation, music, blood, sweat, and tears. Get in on the ground floor of something great and join the Forever DMs table today. Link in the description. Take what they care about the most. Character values their intelligence and has a serious personal issue about being helpless or not the smartest person in the room. Feeble mind. Character values their strength and hides their pain to seem strong and stoic in front of others in order to make themselves feel safe. Give them weakness, cause fear or crushing despair. Maybe they recently lost a loved one and feel guilty about it. Disguise self or nightmare. Pretend to be the ghost of said loved one and completely lay into them. Horny bard? Use Mage Hand to induce testicular torsion! No one is safe from the big bad evil guy's wrath. Obviously ask your players before doing anything too extreme, but try to keep it a surprise somewhat, because nothing beats their reaction to that level of disrespect. I personally love torturing my characters for character development, but not everyone is going to have that storytelling writer's mindset of, they must suffer to learn. Some people just want to have fun, and that's fine. For them, just, I don't know, insult them to strike up a banter and have some sort of rivalry, or just make the character annoyingly smug or cruel. One of my personal favorites was called the Doppelganger King. Basically, early on, the king they served was replaced by a changeling. Now, this changeling didn't do anything directly to the party per se. He acted normally, sending them on the same missions, you know. But he slowly stole bits from each party member. A strand of hair here, a document there, and so on. By the time they realized it was him stealing from them, he had cast a ritual to clone them, and had sent these clones off to replace them, as his new soldiers were superior to them. The party would soon get somewhere just to learn another party had already beaten them to the task and left. Since they wore armor that covered their faces, the party just assumed that they were a rival group. That is, until the truth came out. Turns out, several of the fakes had been living with the party's families while the party had been traveling. The GM made them figure out if the party were actually the clones themselves by uncovering the whole plot to replace them. Once it came out that the fakes had actually been living as them the whole time, they were livid at this king, who had basically been using the royal coffers to distract them. I should mention that what made the villain so fearsome is the unknown element. While he never confronted the party, it was the implications. Was he holding loved ones hostage? Were all the players real? Were there more fakes? What else was he planning? And so on. But in reality, this false king couldn't be bothered. He knew he had legitimately better versions of the players and had actually replaced an ineffectual king. He was just keeping the players around because both he and they needed to be alive for the spell to keep working. had them start out trapped on his workshop basement. Eventually, they found out they had all been in a coma for 15 years. In that time, he had taken the world by force, uniting all kingdoms by giving all the people freedom and magic, banished all the monsters to the hells, imprisoned the gods and the devils, and taken the entire domain of peace for himself. He then got bored and released the heroes. Now they have a choice to fight him and become the villains, or join him and rule in his Iron Fist utopia. Fear. The villain needs to be threatening. The first encounter with the party, the villain needs to win, very easily at that. Now, that doesn't mean that the party should TPK, or total party kill, but you need a moment where the party can see just how dangerous the threat really is, where they are hopelessly outmatched. Whatever the villain is doing here, it can't be trying to kill the party. Rather, the party is just a bunch of mooks who are in the way, and the villain should treat them as such. Go for contempt, or even narcissism. An alternate approach is the Sephiroth intro. The party is ready to attack the compound of the group they think are the main villains, but when they go in, everyone is horribly slaughtered. Really lean into how disturbing and violent the whole thing is. They reach the boss just in time to see him brutally dispatched by the real and true big bad evil guy. Hate. Make it personal. Have the big bad evil guy take things from the party, ruin their reputation, kill beloved NPCs, destroy the party's castle, steal magic items or other things that the party worked hard to get. How do I make a villain that the players hate and fear? Simple. One of my favorite villains of all time is an artificer called Franklin Elkhart, who lost his family in an unnamed war. He was devastated and turned against the gods for allowing it to happen. He turned to mad science and mastered the art of destroying the psyche of his victims. He started capturing people near and dear to prominent figures and turning them into warforged that served him. He reveled in sending them back to watch their actual targets squirm and beg and bargain for their loved ones to be restored before the Warforged killed the target, so that the last thing they ever saw was the face of their darling, preserved in a metal Warforged mask. He became known as the Freak, and a Warforged fighter PC called Unit 13 finally regained his human memories and destroyed him in his laboratory. But the Freak was not done. He was a being full of pure malice and loathing towards the gods and all their creations. His soul was forsaken into the gray limbo called the Well of Souls, where any soul unclaimed by the gods is deposited to lose their individuality and memories. He grew stronger there and schemed for centuries, converting the lost souls to be his sentinel soul forged, and unleashed them. He also managed to create unwitting clones of different races and bloodlines, programmed them to get into positions of power across all the living realms, before activating them to cause conflict, division, and chaos. His schemes led to the death of 3 of the most powerful gods in the pantheon, including the artificer god Vanguard, before the party could stop him. Once he was defeated, and before the party could deliver the finishing blow, the remaining gods materialized around them to take him away. He would not die and be left to return to the Well of Souls. He was petrified, and each of the gods cast a seal on the Freak. So there he was, Godslayer, harbinger of chaos, psychopath, sadist, damned by all the gods in a prison he would never walk out of. And even within his petrified mind, he was as conscious as ever, as a part of his punishment. Locked away in the darkness, he schemed, longing for the day that he would inevitably influence the realms again. And in a little-known far realm, he was able to manifest himself as an incorporeal being of pure consciousness and intellect, calling himself the Forsaken. Somewhat of a dark god now, he bides his time and schemes to usurp the pantheon and all of creation, to become the one true god. Trademarked, by the way. I actually did this for my Fallout game. This is a change of pace. One of the other players asked me to make an enemy NPC for his backstory. He's my GM in another game, so he left his backstory interesting but vague as he wants the other players to shine, but wanted something as well. He's a pre-war ghoul who was a mechanic for the Chinese army in Alaska who was saved from execution at the hands of the US military by the end of the world. Given this, I created not just an NPC that wasn't just hostile, but a straight-up nemesis who is actively hunting him named Sergeant Delco, a member of the 31st Army Regiment who was on the day the bomb fell, defended his position from the communist agents attacking it. Terrified civilians trying to get to safety only to get gunned down by his minigun. He is what I'd assumed a ghoul trapped within his T-60 power armor, who is no longer anything that can be considered human at all would be. The embodiment of pre-war propaganda who will do anything to defend America, unable to process that the nation is long gone. He transcended from a mere soldier into a force of nature, viewing the wasteland through the lens of pre-war indoctrination. And he will not stop until the communist threat has been eradicated. Even his suit running out of power didn't stop him, as he forced it to move on sheer force of will. The players described him as a roaming raid boss when they learned exactly what Sergeant Delco had become, and they already have a plan for when they encounter him. Run! I think it's actually a fun idea for the villain to actually see the party as friends rather than enemies. This actually makes them more terrifying, because while they might act friendly, they can be a true psychopath whose idea of friendship is utterly warped. The party might start receiving increasingly disturbing gifts, such as a heart freshly cut out of someone's chest as a token of their twisted affection. So basically you just made Jared Leto. Okay, cool. One of my favorite villain archetypes is better described as the force of nature. Think of it as an impending doom whose victory is all but ensured, unless... I love the idea that the party can look the evil force in the eye and it does nothing to them out of sheer hubris. So they spit in its eyes to thumb their disdain towards it, metaphorically of course. One of my favorite stories, minus the ending, is Mass Effect. Oh, do I feel that one, because the enemy has this exact feel to it. How do you overcome an enemy that can brute force you to death? It's a matter of survival, wits, tactics, and everything that makes a TTRPG great if DMs can pull it off. So I've created a Mass Effect-inspired campaign out of the Starjammer scenario, and by the end of the campaign, the players had such contempt for the Reaper proxy that it warmed my cold, nearly dead heart. They wanted those things so dead that they even risked unleashing the celestial plane and the dozens of the hells upon the multiverse to slap the shit out of the big bad evil guy. Be big, be bold, use scope, and don't confine the antagonist to doing evil things for the sake of being evil. The dread that they inspire should mean something horrendous on a macro level, and only your players stand between them and total annihilation. Remember, the story's for them, not for you. Let them shine, and the villain will look like a badass. My D&D campaign is a post-apocalyptic style world. I've homebrewed a lot of stuff. Ever present in the universe is the Evolutionary Society, a group of humans driven mad by the desire to evolve past godhood. This group, having been unseen most of the time, and if ever seen, is usually just a few weak grunts or one strong dude, until the party got to a settlement. This is still D&D after all, so the king of the settlement enlists the party's help for jobs. He treats his subjects with respect and rules fairly, trying to be balanced in his judgments and dealings. You know, fair king stuff. He had seen the horrors of combat and doesn't want to see them again. His wife is one of the leaders of the Evolutionary Society. During a large banquet where close friends and the party attend in the castle, the king is acting kind of weird, more stiff and rigid than usual, and staying upon his throne. He is moving, but oddly. The party discovers that the king is dead and has been hollowed out, and inside of him are a series of mutated worms that are piloting him as a flesh suit. The queen doesn't leave his side all night because the worms are coming from her. They aren't worms. They are a series of new appendages the queen mutated onto herself. She has infected most of the royal guard and orders them to fire on the dinner party, killing almost everyone but the party and one NPC the party managed to save. The non-infected guards were executed by the infected ones. The queen then told the party, "You wish to know the reason I didn't kill you? Because you're weak, and I can't have my lowly minions be as weak as you. So grow stronger, so my power may take control of you at your best." Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course, leave a comment down below letting us know. How do you make a villain that players are truly gonna hate, fear, and maybe even have nightmares over? We love you all. See you next time. Bye for now.